announcing the commencement of the annual Purge.
Hello and welcome to episode 23 of Popcorn and Prosecco, a show that is all about talking about movies. And episode 23, that's crazy. They just informed me that, 52 would be a full, year of episodes, and we've kind of been doing the show for half a year. And it's really blowing my mind right now. So, okay, before we jump into our movies this week, which are The Congress, Sex Tape, and The Purge, Anarchy, I am Perri Nemiroff, and here are my co-hosts, Kristy, Puchko, and Angie.
Hi, guys.
Right.
Angie, do you want to say hi so it'll cut to you?
Yes. Hello, I'm Angie. I am not Ed Douglas.
Can we let that be a running joke, please?
Oh, God. That's a good beginning. What are we starting with? Sex
Do you
tape.
want to add to that?
Yeah. Let's.
We can all go around and say who we're not if you like.
I'm not Jeff Goldblum.
Oh. We're always disappointed about that too, Kristy.
Me too.
I'm not Dewey the cat. All right, let's do it. First one up, Sex Tape. Angie, you have got this one.
Okay, so Sex Tape is the new movie by Jake Kasdan, who directed Bad Teacher. And like Bad Teacher, it stars Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel. And this time they play a married couple named Annie and Jay, who they've been together since college, so they've been married for about 10 years. They have kids, or I guess it's about 10 years, right? They have kids now and everything. And, as happens all the time, the sex and the sizzle just isn't quite there anymore. Like, they still really like each other, but they're not having as much sex. So one night, in an attempt to spice things up, they decide to record a sex tape, specifically a 3-hour sex tape of them doing every single position in the joy of sex. And then because modern technology and the cloud and whatnot, it accidentally gets uploaded to every single iPad that Jay owns, which for reasons they don't really go into is a lot of iPads that he's distributed to everyone he knows. So they spend the rest of the movie basically trying to running around town trying to collect the iPads, delete the video, etc., etc. So what I liked about this movie, it's not, I'll be honest, it's not the funniest movie I've ever seen, but what I really liked about it was that I thought Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel have really good chemistry, and it was a movie where the two of them actually seemed to really like each other, which is rarer than you would think for a movie like this. When I was watching the movie, I was thinking of the film This Is 40, which in some ways deals with similar themes of they used to be a couple that was hot for each other, and now their marriage is a little bit getting a little bit stale. But in that movie, it always seemed like those people fucking hated each other. So it was nice to see them like each other. And the other thing I liked about this movie is that it's way more sex positive than I would have expected. I feel like a lot of these kind of raunchy, super raunchy comedies. This isn't one of the raunchiest or anything, but a lot of these R-rated comedy type things, they joke about sex a lot, but it's in a way where it comes from a place of, I guess, immaturity or even some negativity, or sex is used as a weapon, or it's something
or a
that's
gross out tool.
Yeah, or it's a conquest or something like that. In this one, sex is treated as an important but not all-encompassing part of their relationship.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's something that both genders are represented as wanting in the movie, which I really like seeing because, an example that Angie and I talked about after the screening is that their characters' names are Jay and
Annie.
And their best friends are played by Rob Corddry and Ellie Kemper, and they see the tape, which I'm not giving away anything because they refer to it in the trailers, but both of them are excited about watching this tape with their friends. It's not just Rob Corddry's this weird lone perv that's trying to hide this sex tape from his wife. Both of them are actively interested in this sex tape, and it's the same thing with Angie and Jay making it. They're both engaged in it. It's not.
You mean Annie?
Annie and Jay. Whoops. Angie does not have a sex tape with Jason Segel.
No, I don't. Oh my god, I'm so bad at winking. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to anyone who had to see that. That was just sad.
I said that I laughed.
I'm gonna screen grab that. It's gotta be there. A frame has to be there.
Your whole body leaned in, and then the wink was which is funny because actually Cameron Diaz has a really awkward wink in this movie, so that all worked, all of it.
Oh, you brought it back around. I like it. Good job.
But I mean, I agree with you. I know this movie's getting a really terrible reviews on
It's
Rotten
getting
Tomatoes.
slammed by critics. I think it has the last time I checked, it had like a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes or
Oh,
something.
ouch.
Yeah, and it's like I expected bad things because the reviews were so low. But the thing is, like, it was really funny. I had a really good time watching it, and like Angie said, like this is a couple that likes each other, and it made it so much fun to watch. And the film has actually got a really good message about relationships, and it's not just sex specific. It's about the core of the movie is about how these two really like each other and don't. It's not just love. It's not just that they still lust after each other. All those things play a part, but they still like each other as partners, and like that was very sweet to watch. And there's one which I'm not going to get super into, but there's like a big kind of after school special moment where they learn their lesson and it all kind of gets hammered home, and it's like dirty and it's funny and it's touching and it's surprising. I really liked it. I wrote about it on Cinema Blend today of like what this movie gets right about marriage, and I'm really happy with that aspect of the movie. So like yeah, I mean the things about the cloud are dumb, and like
I was gonna say, what about the whole cloud thing? Because when I was watching the trailer for this, I'm like, haha, that's funny that it accidentally gets uploaded to the cloud, but can that sustain a whole movie?
Well, Apple has already come out and been like, guys, don't worry, that is not a thing that happens. You can film all the sex tapes on your iPads that you want. I might be paraphrasing. And so admittedly,
that was their statement.
and so
Using your
admittedly, it's
iPads
like,
to film your sex.
yes, admittedly, it's kind of like a dumb plot point, and like
Yeah.
to the movie's credit,
acknowledge
there is a
that.
point where they kind of admit like why that's kind of dumb, and the character. Anyway,
And the plot takes on kind of a new angle. So yeah, the plot itself is kind of silly, but I didn't really care because it was so much fun. Like another great thing, like I genuinely like Jason Segel and Cameron Diaz together in this movie because they have a lot of fun. They made the sex scenes funny and not exactly sexy. Like Cameron Diaz is very sexy, but the sex scenes are played mostly for laughs. But not in a shameful way, as Angie pointed out. It's just kind of more in that way where like when you're trying to be sexy, you just come off looking like a total joke, like that kind of laugh. So that's fun. But then also, there's so many great character actors in this, and I just need to say, Rob Lowe is so much fun in this movie.
yes, he at first when you see him, you think, oh, he's just playing like Chris Traeger from
Traeger.
Parts. At first, it feels just like that, like he's like kind of got like the same like manic, upbeat energy, but then he just turns into something so much weirder, and it's very silly and very stupid, but very entertaining.
It's like it's a character that on one level makes no sense, but I don't care because I so enjoyed it. And I think
know,
why
I
it
just
works
want
for
Rob
me.
Lowe to go around doing weird things all the time.
Oh, God bless him. Like that's the thing. He's so weird in this movie, but he does it with that same kind of Chris Traeger lack of guile. And like he never winks at how ridiculous what he's doing is, so you just buy it and you're just like, sure, this is what his house looks like. Sure, these are the fashion choices he has made. And I'm just gonna leave it at that because I want you to see this and just enjoy what weirdness Rob Lowe has embraced for this movie. And like there's a lot of fun weird little moments in the movie and I really enjoyed it. Like I would totally watch it again. I'm actually genuinely excited to see it once, like, I'd go see it again. I had a really fun time.
How long is it?
Sure.
90, right?
Yeah, less than 100 minutes, I think.
Okay. That's how a comedy like this should be.
Yes, which is nice because we've all seen those really long Judd Apatow movies where the
Oh.
improv just has to keep going for 20 fucking minutes after it stops being funny.
And Nicholas Stoller, who co-wrote this. So there was a risk of that. Like I like the way Nicholas Stoller tells stories, but he tends to kind of take 20 minutes too long to tell them. And this one, it runs a little bit out of steam in the final act, but I mean not so much so that I was bored, just kind of that I was just kind of like you could feel the energy drop a little bit. But like overall, really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I don't understand why it's getting such flack.
What was the reception in the theater when you guys saw it? Were
People
people
were laughing
out loud?
I mean, I
People
was
were
laughing
laughing.
the loudest, but that's not unusual.
I don't think that, I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't like one of those movies where I was like, oh my god, the crowd was like fucking loving it, but people sounded like they were having a good time. Like I've also been in screenings of comedies where it's just like every joke is landing with a thud and nobody's even like cracking a smile. It wasn't like that. People seemed to be enjoying it.
Well, then again, when we saw Blended, people were laughing.
Well, this wasn't an audience though. There was no one. I think it was just press. I don't think there was like audience people there. So that's always a tougher crowd. I find critics don't laugh as loudly as like non-critic audiences. Like
Well,
the
I think, we're pickier, and it's probably our job to be
And also
pickier.
those people are probably hand-picked in a way, they're going after their target I've been in ones where they're going after their target audience, and like even Twilight, when we used to see Twilight when those movies were coming out, it was us in the middle and then tons of screaming girls all around. Or at least that's how I saw all of them.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out like why this movie's been getting such a bad rap, because I was genuinely like, I hadn't read any of the reviews before I saw it, and I was genuinely surprised at like how bad some of the reviews were when I looked them up later. And I don't know, like
What are these bad reviews picking on?
The structure is a big problem. The fact that, the cloud thing is kind of, it's not great storytelling, and it's kind of dumb, and if you understand how technology works, you can pretty quickly be like, hang on. But it's a comedy, so I don't care. Like, it's not like it's Transcendence where the whole movie hangs together on this concept you have to buy.
I don't know. A lot of people also said that it wasn't funny, or that, Jason Segel and Cameron Diaz didn't have good chemistry. I absolutely disagree with the latter. As for the not funny part, I mean, I'll admit, like, I've seen, like, these kinds of, like, raunchy comedies that are more, that have wilder, bigger moments, and that are funnier, and that go a little bit more extreme, and, like, are a little bit more, I guess explicit with the sex. Like, you'll see hairy balls and shit. And it's not like that, but...
You're seeing no hairy balls in this one.
Yeah, it's actually for, for the premise, it's not, it's maybe a little bit tamer than you'd expect, which I guess maybe is a problem for some people. And I can see, like, if you're going in expecting, like, oh my god, this is going to be the craziest, wildest thing ever, it's not that. But that was about the only thing I could really, like, think of where I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Because the rest of it, I don't know, I thought it was really pleasant.
Yeah, pleasant. I mean, that's true, but I mean, like, it's much more of a romp than like a raunchy comedy. Like, there's raunch elements to
so
it.
maybe the marketing is wrong. I don't know. I mean, overall, I think I've made it pretty clear. Like, I really liked it. It's not like, oh my god, this is my favorite comedy of the year or anything, but I thought it was really entertaining. Kristy?
Totally, I agree with that. Their marketing is a date movie. I think it's a great date movie.
It's a good date movie, especially if you're in a
Yeah.
long-term relationship, because I think there's a lot of things where you're just like, yeah, I know what I
get
yep,
this.
I know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's not a rom-com. It's more it's a sex comedy. It's just that it's not. I don't think it's as explicit as people might be thinking. Like, it's not like The Hangover explicit. It's not gratuitous. It's much more about the characters than it is about the sex itself. But the sex itself does get some pretty hilarious moments.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for Sex Tape. Kristy, you want to lead us into The Congress, which is nothing like the Sex Tape?
Have fun explaining that one.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, so The Congress is out on VOD right now, and it's the follow-up from Ari Folman, who did Waltz with Bashir, and it's a live-action animated film whose concept is kind of hard to pin down, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So basically, Robin Wright, the actress from Princess Bride and Forrest Gump and many, many other movies that are not as well known, plays herself in it. And the first half of the movie is her being offered this new job where instead of ever performing ever again, she will sell her likeness and her celebrity and her identity as Robin Wright to a studio who will then scan her and through the use of computers put her in any movie they want. It's basically like the technology that allows them to put Marilyn Monroe in
The Dior commercials
Yeah.
with Charlize Theron.
or like have Fred Astaire sweeping in vacuum cleaner commercials, all that kind of stuff. But it's like next level stuff. So she doesn't want to do it. There's a long discussion about why she doesn't want to do it, but ultimately she caves because her son has this very rare disease and she decides she's going to dedicate her life to taking care of him. And the money she would get from this would be very helpful. So then we leap to 20 years in the future, which is a large part of what you're seeing in the trailers where everything's animated and weird. And that's where the plot goes completely off the rails and becomes about this new age where people are taking chemicals so that they basically hallucinate all the time and don't have to deal with the reality around them, and they can be projected to be whoever they want. If you think Marilyn Monroe is the shit, you can look like Marilyn Monroe. If you want to be Aphrodite or Frank Sinatra or Jesus,
or a Picasso painting, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I actually would totally be the mechanical man from Metropolis because that's just badass. But
I wouldn't be anyone because that's weird and it's not real. They're
oh
cartoons.
man. Okay, so before we start whatever, I really love this movie. I'm not going to pretend that I understood it all because I don't, because it's a very surreal film, and I think it demands multiple rewatchings to really get what they're doing. But I liked what it starts to say about celebrity and about this idea of, whether or not you like it when you're a celebrity, there's a certain amount of consent that is taken away, and your identity is taken on by all these other people that think they know you, and that was all really interesting. And then when it gets to the animation section, it's so strange and it's so twisted, and it fucks with your head, and I loved it. I didn't know walking into this movie what it was going to be, and I was just really blown away. I think it's beautiful, and it's fucked up, and it's crazy, and I'm so excited about it.
I was blown away by the first part, not so much the second. I love the idea of the first. Like, if your synopsis had stopped halfway through, that's like a brilliant idea for a movie. Because really, I mean, is that not the next step after motion capture technology? Why don't we just, project one person and not make that person actually have to act themselves and just own the digital components?
Yeah, the first half was interesting because it's like something that you can imagine actually happening. Maybe not exactly like that, but you're like, I could see things headed in this direction in the not too distant future.
Totally. It feels like believable sci-fi.
Exactly. But then once we get to the cartoon parts, it's not so believable anymore. I mean, there's a lot of problems I found with that. First, it wasn't believable. I couldn't shake the fact that even though these are real people that are doing this to themselves, like putting themselves in that position, I couldn't wrap my head around why someone would do that. I mean, you're faking it. I mean, what's the difference really between that and like hallucinating on any drug right now?
Well,
I mean,
I kind of got the feeling
what do you get out of that?
I kind of got the feeling that in this future, not only do people do it because they like it, it also seemed like it was just kind of the social norm. Like everyone's doing it, and so nobody really questions why it's weird. And people seem to change their identities as they feel. In that sense, I think you're supposed to, or at least I kind of saw it as like not being that different from someone like changing the way they dress, because it's still a way that you're, people are always going to be interested in presenting themselves and like in projecting and trying to project something that they want other people to see in themselves by like how they look. And so it just felt like a more extreme version of that. So I wasn't bothered by that. I do think it goes off the rails when it turns animated, but not necessarily in a bad way. I think that some of the themes get a little bit muddled, like, because in the beginning it's pretty clear what the themes are. Once we get to the animated stuff, it gets a little bit more confusing and a little bit more mixed up. It made me feel like I was on drugs, albeit, of the kind we already have and not of the kind that makes me look like someone else. But I feel like as someone who watches a lot of movies, I have such an appreciation for when things feel really different, and I will give this movie credit for that. It feels very different from most things we've seen. And the other thing that I liked about it is like the whole premise feels a little bit like Charlie Kaufman-esque, and I love Charlie Kaufman, so I was immediately like, okay, I want to see where this is going.
I think that one of the main reasons that I didn't buy into the cartoon part is because of the lack of transition. Because it really just it does say just 20 years later, and that's it. There's no, like, I get that, maybe one technology kind of could have led to the other, but that was kind of just something I forced together in my own head. I didn't feel it. And also, when I saw the cartoon version of her, I had a hard time connecting it to the real person I had just met. And the way that those cartoons are designed, I guess I didn't think that they emoted enough. So I didn't feel for her. Like when she meets that guy and he's like, I love you, I didn't really buy it.
That's interesting. I really love the cartoon animation of her because its likeness doesn't look especially like her, because it's not just supposed to be Robin Wright. It's supposed to be Robin Wright 20 years in the future, and we've only seen her for about 2 minutes in her future makeup. But what I liked about it is that I thought her voice work is so strong and so compelling that, like, there's a scene where she basically has a freak out in the bathroom, and she's aware that everything she's seeing is things she's hallucinating, and the lights won't turn on, and it's because she doesn't want them to turn on, and it's a very disturbing moment, and I was very sucked into the peril of that, even though things get much worse for her. And I thought, I get what you're saying, where the people have very kind of placid faces in the animation. But what I thought was interesting is it's not just the faces that they have that are meant to emote, it's what's going on around them. It's like there's one part where she fantasizes that this man she's speaking to starts kind of turning into flowers. And that, I just thought that was all, it's really kind of like Miyazaki meets Cool World to me is what that section looked like. And I just, I'd never seen anything quite like it, and I thought it was extraordinary.
It is very pretty, I'll give it that. I mean, yeah, their faces just didn't tell me anything, but everything around them, there was a lot to look at, which was nice. I mean, I'll appreciate what the movie was trying to do, but it just lost me at that point. I couldn't connect to anything, and that means I didn't care. And also the fact that it didn't make much sense what people were trying to do in that portion of the movie also. Like, I didn't really understand why this Congress was happening. I didn't quite understand, what her goal was, because in the first portion of the movie, her goal was very clear: save her son. Then we totally lost that. But then it kind of came back, but not really.
I mean, I liked it a lot more than Perri did, but I kind of had the same thing where, like, the first half of the movie, it's very clear, not just what's going on, but, like, who she is, what her motivations are, like, what the story is going to be about. And then you get to the second half, and suddenly it's like, it's a story about, like, celebrity, and it's also about family, and it's also about romance, and it's also about the passage of time, and, like, it tries to do a lot, and I give it a lot of credit for that. It's very ambitious, but I don't know if it quite pulls it off. That said, I think it pulls it off well enough that, like, first of all, I admire him just for having the ambition to be like, yes, I'm going to tackle all of these things, because that is fucking bold. I think it does a good enough job that I was still compelled the whole time, and I actually really want to see it again, because I think that there's probably a lot of stuff that, like, I think some of the stuff that I wasn't so clear on might be cleared up by watching it again. Oh, and while we're talking about voice work, John Hamm is in this as, like, a guy. He's an animator who has been. So once she sold her likeness, a team of animators have been responsible for, like, taking the likeness and turning them into movies. And John Hamm is an animator who has been on, like, the Robin Wright department of his studio, Miramount, that's what they call it, for 20 years. And he's, like, sort of fallen in love with her, and that's really interesting. It's like a really weird, interesting love story that I don't think that they do enough with, but I want to just point out that John Hamm, I thought, did really good work in this. It's a very, very different role than he usually plays. Like, he plays this, like, kind of, like, mild, not really mild-mannered, but he's a very different kind of guy than you see. Like, he's gentler, he's more thoughtful, he's more sensitive. I thought that was an interesting change of pace for him.
I think the acting in this is actually really astounding. Harvey Keitel plays her agent in this, and I think he has a really amazing scene. I'm curious what you two thought of Robin Wright's portrayal before we close up this section.
What do you mean, her portrayal? Like, her acting in the movie?
Her as herself.
I liked her.
Where people
quite a bit
repeatedly
in the
call her
beginning.
garbage.
Oh, I love that. It was very Being John Malkovich. Like, it's a movie about the experience of being a celebrity, played by a celebrity who is playing a celebrity. And I thought that it was, it's kind of heartbreaking when you watch it, because these are people sitting around, like, pulling real facts from her career. Like, oh, you were that girl in Princess Bride, and we thought you were going to be bigger, and then you weren't. And, like, these are things that are true, and they're actually saying it to her as a character. Yeah. She is so astoundingly good in this, and I hope that this launches her into more, better, bigger things.
Well, that crying scene is one of the best scenes in the entire movie.
It's amazing, and I know you're going to say, yeah, it's really great, and I get it. It seems that we all were interested in what was going on, though the effect on which it worked on us ranged greatly, from Perri not digging it at all, to Angie thinking it was pretty cool but kind of confusing, to me being like, it's confusing, but I fucking love it.
Yeah, I would say
I'm leaning more toward Kristy than Perri, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not leaning towards either of you. I would say if you want to go see this movie, you could totally turn it off after 30 minutes, because I think that the first 30 minutes of this movie actually can play as a really nice little short film with a really cool idea. You know what I want to see? I want to see the Congress too, but, like, screw all that animated shit. I just want to see, like, that beginning part play out in full. I want to see what happens.
I think that, I agree that you could take the same first 40 minutes and make a different movie out of it, and I agree with that, but oh my god, you are missing out on some crazy, weird, ambitious, like, visually interesting shit if you turn it off after the first 30 minutes.
I really love this, and I recommend it. It's on VOD. I mean, if you're thinking it's weird, you can take a break and walk away from it for a bit, but I think it's astounding. And I also want to throw out that I think a really good double feature for the Congress would be The Congress and Cold Souls, which also has Paul Giamatti, which we didn't have a chance to talk about, but he's in both movies. And in Cold Souls, Paul Giamatti plays himself and sells his soul because it burdens him. And I feel like they have very similar themes and senses of humor, and they're awesome.
I
I
would like
think
to just
Cold
say
Souls
one.
was the first theatrical release I ever reviewed.
Wow.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did kind of like it. It's interesting.
The
See,
only
but like that goes to show how I'd react to something like this. Like that one
Sure.
felt very real to me. What was happening?
That's
It's like
mostly
an
the first 40
outrageous
minutes
idea,
the whole time.
but it's grounded, and
Yeah.
yeah, I love that.
the only thing that the one last thing I want to say about the Congress is don't watch this while you're on drugs. You'll already feel like you're on drugs. It's confusing enough without your mind being addled. Just
Yeah, this
watch
movie
it
is what I
sober.
imagine bath salts is like.
Yeah.
There's the quote for that movie. We're doing well.
And there's nothing else to say than this movie feels
how I
like
didn't
what
put that
bath
in my
salts
review.
probably feels like. So
All right, so on to our final movie of the week, The Purge Anarchy, the sequel to The Purge. And if you have not seen The Purge, what it's about is it's a government that says in order to cleanse yourself or to release the beast, as they say, we are going to have one night a year from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., a 12-hour period where all crime is legal. You can kill people, you can steal shit, do whatever you want. So that's the basic premise. And this installment focuses on a guy played by Frank Grillo. His name, I believe, is Leo. And he decides that he's upset about something, so he wants to go out and purge. But not like go crazy purge. Like he has a reason he wants to purge. And he goes,
I think you can say that.
Yeah.
That's like the first 5 minutes.
I guess. Yeah, all right, I'll say that. So revenge. He wants revenge. He goes out onto the street and stops laughing at me. And he
I
goes
just look at you like, revenge. Revenge.
Let's make that a GIF. He goes out onto the street, ready to like kill his target, and he comes across these two women that are kind of being forced out onto the street against their will. And then he also runs into another two people who get stuck outside after the siren goes off and the purge begins against their will. So it's like he went outside purposely to purge, and they're kind of there by someone else's doing. So he sees them all helpless, and he decides, okay, I'm gonna save them, and he does. And then they tag
Except
along.
he does it in Frank Grillo way, so it's like.
Oh yeah,
fine.
it's
the
like-
way Perri said it made it sound so cute. Like it was like Perri
he's
being
a
like,
soccer
"Oh, it's
dad."
an injured bird. Nurse it back to health," but it's not like that. He's like very reluctant.
you know, well, you know,
fine.
He's a tough
he's
bastard.
like fine, but that is kind of what he is like, because like they're all so freaking helpless. so
he's,
I
like,
almost,
hitting on them, but it's not like a sweet like, come with me if you want to live. It's like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
And then the purge ends, and like they walk off into the sunrise together.
Spoilers.
Spoiler.
Yes, everyone gets ice cream at the end of this movie. They all high five. No, that is not what happens.
I want to see that in the next purge. But
The
anyway,
Purge ice cream.
the whole thing is about Frank Grillo's character and these four other characters trying to survive the night together, and he's kind of their protector, and they're just like tagging along the whole time. And it's fun because The Purge is a brilliant freaking idea for a movie. It's crazy.
Okay,
but
let
I
Perri.
think this idea is so freaking franchise worthy. I can't believe it.
No, it's a great
I don't
concept.
think that The Purge or The Purge Anarchy use it as well as it should be used. I think that there's a lot more potential that they are not tapping into whatsoever, but it's still fun to watch, and because it's fun to watch, that makes me want to see more of them.
No,
I think
totally.
that the Purge Anarchy does a way, way, way better job than the Purge did of taking full advantage of the premise. Because, you know, the Purge kind of like, it starts out with like, oh, this is a crazy dystopian world we found ourselves in. Oh, it's a standard home invasion thriller, and you know, that's not the only problem with that movie, but it basically turned into something way less interesting. Whereas this one, I think, did such a better job of like exploring, like, you know, like what kind of society this is, like what kind of people live in this society, what kind of motivations these people have for participating in the purge, you know, like what happens to the victims, like how the victims feel about it, like why someone might have a legitimate reason to go on purge. Like I thought that this movie did a much better job. I'm not saying that they couldn't do an even better job, like, you know,
the
in
world
theory,
building in this
but I
is
thought
way
that
better.
yeah, I think that especially compared to the last one, it was leaps and bounds better. But I do have a bone to pick with you, Perri, which is that you talk about the premise for this one like it makes sense. It doesn't make any more sense than
No,
that.
I'm talking about like the idea of the purge. Like
No,
just
the idea of the
being a
purge
movie.
makes no fucking sense to me. That is
Well.
just like logistically, that would just like for logistical
Okay.
reasons that would never happen.
If you
But
get past that, for a horror movie franchise, it's perfect.
but I'm
Horror
saying
movie
I feel like
franchises
with
don't make sense. Come on.
well,
No,
I
I
feel
do-
like with both the Congress and this, it still worked for me because it made emotional sense.
Did
Like
you just compare the Purge Anarchy to the Congress? Because I think you're the only person in the world that's going to do that.
well, I just feel like for in both, well, it's just because in the last one you were talking about how it didn't make sense to you, but it made emotional sense to me, and in this one it's the same thing where it made emotional sense, and I thought that was really this movie's strength, was that he did such a better job of making emotional sense out of this premise, whereas the last one, you
It's just that
really,
people are crazy bastards. Yeah.
yeah, the last one is just
The last
like,
one, the
oh, I don't
characters are
know, some people
stupid.
are just assholes and they just like to
Yeah.
kill people one night a year. This one actually like kind of you get a much better understanding of why they would do that.
No, totally. That was what I like so much about this one is, like Angie said, like, for once we were actually shown why people, like, a reason you could understand why people would purge, and I'm not saying you agree with, but, like, people would state why they were purging. And it was a really interesting theme because it's, again and again, you had people who were basically saying, like, I have a right to violence. And that's not,
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing, but they would say, this is my right. And then they would attack someone.
it boils down to entitlement a lot of the times, and like, that's something that like so like all the best horror movies are the ones that kind of take fears that you already have and kind of like make them big, and I feel like this one kind of did that. I don't know, I'm talking about it like it's a masterpiece. It's not a fucking masterpiece. It's like not even subtle at all or anything like that, but
It's just very one-dimensional and straightforward.
yeah, but
It's a good time. I mean, I think the tension works really well. I was way more interested in the ensemble characters than I was last time. Even though the couple that gets trapped out, they're kind of weak, but the mother and daughter is really interesting.
They
Frank
were
Grillo
great.
is
I thought that the two people who played the mother and daughter, I don't know their names, unfortunately. Yeah, I thought they were great, and I kind of believed that they were scared all the time. I mean, the other two that you mentioned, what's his name, Matt Saracen.
Matt Saracen.
Is really not his real
Zach
name.
Gilford
And what's her
and
face?
Keila Sanchez. Well, I don't know if that's how you say her name, but fun fact, they're married in real life.
So interesting.
That is interesting. I mean, like, they were fine in it. It's just that, like, their characters didn't get as much depth as, like, the mother-daughter characters, and they didn't get as much to do. They're fine. But, like, at least I understood their characters more than we did in the first movie, and, like, you got
And they
why
weren't
they were...
stupid. Like, in the first
Except-
movie, do you know that nothing in the first movie would have happened if those stupid kids would have just, like, not made the dumbest decisions on Purge night imaginable?
No,
Yeah,
totally.
like in the Purge Anarchy, the characters do a few. They goof up a few times, but in ways where you're like, yeah, I guess that
You
like
get
that
it.
would happen. Like,
Yeah, except that the couple I hold things against, because basically, like, they're trying to get out of Los Angeles to a place where I guess they don't purge. That was kind of unclear. I guess there are some areas in states that
no,
don't.
I don't think that's what
Are
it
they
is.
just,
I
like,
think they were
trying
just
to go
trying
home?
To a lockdown.
I think they were just trying to go get like away from downtown, which is like where all the purgers would be. They just wanted to go somewhere that was
But, like,
relatively more
they're
safe.
like, oh, we have 4 hours left, and I said to Angie, I was like, okay, let's say the purge is real. I'm going to
I
Canada
love playing this game.
a week. I don't want, like, because, like, you figure there's going to be a clusterfuck getting out of New York when the purge is coming.
No,
Because
you
New
know
York
what
is a
you do?
madhouse.
You go to Canada.
No,
That's
what
what she said, yeah.
Come
That's what
on.
I'm saying. I would get out.
Oh, go completely out of the States.
Well, yeah, I would go to Canada, but I would go, like, several days ahead of time, not like, well, we got 4 hours, that'll be fine. Because it's just, like, I mean, it's hard to get out of New York on time, ever, because the MTA is garbage and Amtrak's pain in the
Yeah,
ass.
if you've ever tried to go to like Long Island for the weekend and you leave on like Friday after work,
Yeah, exactly. So, like, yeah, I wouldn't be taking a risk with the purge coming to New York. I would get that. I'd be, like, booking my ticket for, like, 4 days ahead of time, and I wouldn't come
Although
back
I
for
do
several
bet
days
you,
after.
eventually, if this franchise continues, the Purge will go global.
I would not be surprised. They all the franchises go global at some point.
I
I'd
have
like
so
to
many
keep it
ideas for new Purge movies.
I'd like to keep it in America because I think it's a really interesting American theme. Do you know in other countries it's called American Nightmare?
Really?
Yeah,
That's
look at
hilarious.
these posters. I was looking for a poster and I thought this one's great, and it was for another country, and it's
Is that
American
what they
Nightmare.
think of us? I mean,
Well, I mean, that's what it is.
He's
Like, you
American,
watch-
right? So an American made this movie, so apparently it's what we think of ourselves. But that's still sad.
Well,
I
mean,
will
look
say
at
that.
this
Oh,
movie, there's themes about guns and people's feelings of rights to them and people's feelings of their rights to their religion over other people's. Like, there's one part where a mentally insane woman is just firing blindly and talking
yeah,
about
no,
how
it's
God
true. There's a lot of what it boils down to for a lot of these characters, like you kind of touched upon earlier, is like a lot of them feel like it's my right to do this, it's my right to do the things, and you're right. That's a
and
very
it's very
American
rah-rah American,
approach.
like, I am entitled to these things.
Like, I'm an American. I'm entitled to have this. I'm entitled to have that. No, you're right. I do think that, like, so thematically, I thought it was strong, if a little bit, like, not at all subtle. Like, people will literally just come out and say, I'm entitled to this, and, you know, because
Yeah.
it's the movie.
This is my right. They say that a lot.
But my bigger problem with it, I mean, I liked it overall, but I thought that the scares could use some work. He really relies
Well, it
very
wasn't really
heavily
a
on,
scary
like,
movie. This
It's
was
more
an
of a-
action thriller.
Yeah.
But like even then, like there's a lot of like jump scares which are just like ugh, they're so tiring. There's a lot more of like there's more of what they did in the last film where like anytime someone's about to like get killed, like that person gets shot. So I thought like that kind of stuff could use a little bit more work and was not super strong. Before we wrap, I do have to say Frank Grillo, so hot. I'm sorry.
He is like my new favorite person.
So
and you
good
know,
in this, and he's
I wanna
what's going to
point out
make
that-
you like him
that
even more?
Throughout the movie. No matter what is happening on screen, and you just hear Angie go, Frank Grillo is so hot.
well, he was.
Well, not only is he really hot, he's a good actor because like he brought a lot
He is
more
a
to this
good actor.
character than was what was in the script to begin with.
That's
And
absolutely
also,
true.
He is so freaking nice. Like, people get so many more points in my book when I get to meet them and talk to them, and they're like just the nicest person ever. And he's easily one of my favorite interviews of this year.
I'm so glad to
So
hear that.
thoughtful.
I think he's gonna blow up from this. Like, he's been having some good, like, bit meaty roles, but like this shows like he could have his own like gritty action movie.
Yeah,
Well,
like he was
between
really.
this, he's gonna star in The Raid.
Yeah, he was really good in Captain America, but it was such like a movie with so many things going on that I think he kind of got lost. Like when he was on screen, I'd be like, "This guy's awesome," and then like Hydra would happen, and I'd be like, "What? Who's that guy again? Never mind, I forgot about him."
But I want to
this
see
one,
more Frank Grillo vigilante
Yes.
justice. Like, I mean, whether that means
He's
continuing
got
to
his
work with
own
this
TV
director.
show coming out on DirecTV too in the fall.
What is that?
Kingdom. I think it's about boxing or MMA. It's MMA.
Oh, right. I think he's like actually a trained
Angie, that
martial
he
artist or
is.
something. Yeah. So overall,
yeah.
The Purge.
The Purge.
I know it has not been getting great reviews, but I think if you liked the first one, or even if you thought this is pretty good but it could do better, or like even if you thought it's a good idea but it could do better, then you should watch this one.
I would
I like
definitely
this
say
one.
the same thing.
Yeah, I thought the first one was an interesting idea, but I was pretty bored with it. This one I think is genuinely really fun. I think if you're looking for something thrilling this weekend, the Purge Anarchy's great.
I say go see it. I love The Purge. I hope it does well because I want more Purges. One day I should devote an entire one of these episodes and I should make you two sit here and listen to me like rattle off my incredible list of Purge sequel ideas.
Oh my god, I thought you were going to be like what
I
you would
think
do
about
with the
this
Purge for
way
real. I
too
was like,
much.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
You know
I
what's
will do
crazy
this.
is the first time I ever saw The Purge, like before anyone else had, it was a promo screening that I covered. I was the first one to kind of like ever go and ask people, so what would your Purge plans be? And like I walked around and I did like this little piece, and then I think we posted it on Screen Rant. And at first it was like a lot of really smart things, like why would you kill someone when you could rob a bank, or like stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it started to get like really crazy specific, and that was the end of the comment section. Never again.
Oh my.
The Purge.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't think internet commenters need like more of a reason to threaten to kill each other or like you.
I want
or,
to throw
you know,
out.
so.
A friend of mine asked me if all crime is legal, so people could rob like the Met, and I said yeah, and he said oh, and I said so would you rob the Met, and he said no, that art's for everyone. I would try to defend it, but he is a very thin man who could not defend much. And I said I would totally watch your Purge movie, but it'd be really short. He said, yeah, it'd be me hitting someone with a baseball bat in front of the Met and then just getting shot in the face.
Yeah, your friend is not. No, sorry.
Adam's awesome, but he would not withstand Purge night.
Nope.
I'd go rob an Apple store. That'd actually be a fun movie, like robbing the Fifth Avenue Apple store.
But then you'd have to get home without getting raped or murdered
And
repeatedly.
you know you would not be the only person with that idea, so the Apple Store is going to be crawling with people.
It would be as crowded as
Yeah.
it is every hour of every day.
But
There is
seriously,
surprisingly
the Purge
little-
3 set in an Apple store. It's like the Hunger Games, but in an Apple store.
There is surprisingly
nowhere to
little
hide.
like theft and property damage in
I
the
think there's
Purge.
probably a fair amount of that, but it's like, well, no, there's all this murder going on. Who wants to see someone robbing the Gap
You
for
know,
cashmere
I
sweaters?
asked the director, James DeMonico, about that because I said we were talking about like the rules of it, and I asked, if like your neighbor stole your car on Purge night, and then the next day rolled around and your car is just sitting in somebody else's driveway, do you have the right to take that car back? Because like, isn't it still in your name? He didn't have an answer, but like we had fun. We had fun trying to figure out all these rules and how exactly it might. All right, so the Purge is getting out of control. We are done for this week. We are out of time. You can find us everywhere if you like our show. We are on iTunes. First and foremost, go on iTunes, Popcorn Prosecco, rate us, comment, like it, all that good stuff.
Subscribe.
We are on YouTube, Popcorn Prosecco. We are on Twitter. Our handle is Popcorn Prosecco, and we are also online, popcornprosecco.com. Check that out, and then all three of us are on the internet as well. Angie, you want to take it first?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at AJHAN, and I write for /film.com.
Kristy?
I'm Kristy Puchko. I'm at Kristy Puchko on Twitter, KRISTYPUCHKO, and I write for Cinema Blend and a bunch of other sites, but you can keep up with me at decadentcriminals.com, my personal blog.
And you can catch me on Twitter. My handle is Nemiroff, and no more all over the place, justcollider.com from now on.
Woo!
Thank you, guys. And thank you all for watching. We will see you next week.
Siri, how do you perform CPR on a dog?